99 hustles. 99 hustles.
Welcome to the 99 Hustles podcast. I'm your host, Nick Carter.
And I'm your co-host, International Fees.
And today we're joined by another exceptional creative guest, none other than Brianna or Bree Wise in the building. Bree, how you doing today?
I'm good. How are you guys doing?
We're doing well. Thanks for taking the time to chop it up with us today. And but before we get there, Bree is a fashion stylist. She's also the co-founder and CEO of Bow. And we're excited to really get into her story at this point. So Bree, before we kind of get to where you're at now, can we get started by talking about, a little bit about your beginning and how you got to this point?
Yeah, so it's crazy because originally I was a basketball player. I was a basketball player from the time I was 8 all the way into college.
Oh, wow.
And I ended up feeling like it just wasn't enough time to do fashion and basketball. Like we played 3 times a day, whether it be swim workouts or like one-on-ones with the coach or like group basketball. And I was like, I don't have enough time to do what I really want to go to school for. And so I ended up stopping, and the coach was pissed. Like he stopped talking to me about, like all 4 years. It was crazy, but I joined this fashion club and I was able to do an internship with this fashion designer who let me move to New York for a whole summer to do like PR styling for him.
Wow.
And while I was there, I like ran into the stylist that I'm like obsessed with. I was watching her show all the time. It's called Rachel Zoe. I'm not sure if you know her, but she had her own show and her assistant was using one of the jackets that he had. And so I ended up dropping it off to him and just saw all the clothes and was like, I want to do this. I need to figure out how to make it a business, but it wasn't any information really on how to do that. You just saw the end result. So it was like, for a long time, I was trying to figure that out, but I always had friends that would ask me to style them. And because I played basketball, I had some athlete friends too. So one of my first clients played for Sacramento Kings. Yeah. And so I would just figure it out in personal style for him. And then, interning, I ended up moving to LA right after college, back to New York, then LA again for 5 years. And throughout that time span, I just developed my business. So I've done personal styling, I've done celebrity styling, press, I've done, corporate commercials, TV, film, but each one is a little bit different. So I guess I can go into like all of the details on becoming a stylist.
Sure.
But yeah.
So
that's how I started out.
I'm assuming fashion has always been a part of your life, even prior to being
absolutely.
Okay, so I mean, people don't generally look at athletes as like fashion, the people who go for fashion. So like, how was it being like growing up playing basketball, being known for a basketball player, and then still having your fashion side where
So I come from a basketball family, and my mom and my dad, not my mom, but my dad's side. So everybody in the family played, and I was the only girl. But both of my parents are very fashion forward. Like my dad would be like, he won, best dressed in high school and all that. And me and my mom, like we would always like dress alike. Like when I was little, she would always just dress us alike. So I think I always had that influence of fashion. But they never knew of any other thing outside of just shopping for clothes to be a career or anything.
Like the business side of it.
Yeah. So I mean, I always had that influence, I think, from my parents growing up with
which one takes the credit for your fashion sense?
My mother. My mother for sure. Like she still sends me like DMs and different stuff on Instagram. I'm like, you don't even have photos on your Instagram.
Yeah. So
he's lurking.
Yeah, and Bree, that kind of goes into what I wanted to ask you next. Like, so do you think like becoming a fashion stylist or being nice at fashion styling is something that you're kind of like born with and it's like a natural gift, or is it something that people could like learn to do?
So this is what I mean, I don't necessarily teach it, but I always say, if you have an eye for fashion, it's just about developing your business. So I went to school for business and ended up making my minor fashion merchandising. But I always say, if you have an eye for it and you have confidence in putting an outfit together and you actually want to be someone that helps someone enhance their personal look, helps them enhance their confidence, whether they're starting a new project or a new job or whatever it may be, then you can develop your business in order to be it. But you should already know that you have, a passion for helping others in that way before you even want to start becoming a stylist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense. So, and I've heard that before, actually. I've heard that like before, like mostly like with music, like they say like, yo, learn your business, like, it's good to be a creative and to be an artist, but learn your business. And I think it's really important about your story is you said you went to school for business and like learning the business. So you said so now you're in LA and
no, I'm actually in New York now.
Oh, you're back. Okay. You moved to New York. Okay. Okay. And you're working with different clients in the city. You're trying to spread your name. Is that correct?
So actually, I've been getting booked for some commercials in LA, so I'll go out for there. But right now, my focus has really been teaching other stylists. So I've been styling for 13 years, and like that hustle is real. You know what I'm saying? Like you have to genuinely want to do it.
Yeah. So like, what's that environment like? You know what I mean? I'm assuming because you played basketball your whole life, like competition is natural for you. But for someone that's just like,
yeah, true.
I would assume for people that are just like, maybe just fashion forward, but they don't have that competitive side to them, like that's got to be really scary to walk into a situation where you're like, I mean, I don't come from a fashion family or anything like that. Like, how do I make my, my mark on here?
Well, the first thing I think is determining the type of styling you want to do. So I still do styling. My primary focus is commercials and men. Honestly, because I just feel like a lot of times men, they just like, yeah, this is cool. It's a little different. And they come with commercials. It's very well organized and they tell you exactly what they're looking for. Like, for example, I just did a Pizza Hut commercial for the Beyond Meat pizzas. Wow. And so they give you a mood board already. So I don't even have to create a mood board. I just have to go based off what they've given me and, I already know the stores or wherever to shop from. I know my tailors, I know all that. So I could just do that in like a day.
It's like second nature for you.
Yeah. So, I think that is definitely different, but you need to know primarily what your niche is before you handle, the business side of things, because it's almost just like you're a consultant. It's just with clothes. And, you're actually working with people at their most intimate selves because they're like vulnerable, not knowing what to wear, or, you see them with no clothes on. So it's like, you're a consultant, really, but more in the fashion realm.
And what would you say is the most challenging part of the job?
The most challenging job, I would say, is time in different ways. When people are first starting out, they don't really know how to find their customers. And then the second part I would say is challenging is the time where it is to run and get clothes or do returns or do meetings or do, all those things, because it's like a step-by-step process where, you first start off with your mood board, then you go ahead and have a conversation with the client to see if this is the right direction that they want to go on. So then you go into your fitting. After you purchase the clothes, you don't find things that fit, you return them, you do your fittings with them again with the tailor. So it's a bunch of back and forth. So I think that could be frustrating for some people.
Yeah, that sounds, to me personally, that feels like, that sounds, I get stressful like just hearing that. Cause like, I feel like,
you gotta be organized.
Yeah, like the people who are on camera and stuff too, like you said, like some celebrity clients, I would like, do they have like sometimes egos and you're like, and it's like the wrong size and they just lose it?
Oh, no, not
okay.
That. And I wouldn't even say necessarily egos. I think it's just, a lot of times if you're trying to bring something new in, they may not be comfortable with it yet until they see it on them and they're like, oh, this actually works. So I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing. But yeah, I mean, that's your job to like introduce them to new things or just, help them make a better or a more enhanced look to what they already have.
So you mentioned like growing up, your family had, they're both of your parents were both fashion. They had good fashion sense, but did you get that like entrepreneurial aspect from them as well? Or where did that kind of come from? Where did you learn that from?
Yeah, that comes from my dad. So I mean,
Okay.
I've always had a business. Like when I was a kid,
Interesting.
I owned vending machines at my grandmother's.
That's dope.
Wow.
My grandmother's clothing store. She had a dry cleaners and she still owns it to this day, but she's rented it out, but she still owns a dry cleaner. So I guess it comes from that side of the family, period, because that's my dad's mom. So
Okay.
I had vending machines, I did nails at camp, I sold chips and used my mom's juice to make snowballs for the neighborhood. Like I always had some type of hustle going on. I did affiliate marketing, built websites, creative branding, marketing, all that kind of stuff.
So you've always had the business,
He's
like
a hustler.
you've always been a hustler. It's just and then you said you played, basketball all the way through college. So like you had the dedication and you had like the
focus,
the whole concepts and the focus and all the qualities that, make a successful business person. So it's dope to hear that like fashion, I'm assuming fashion was that kind of like always your first love, or was basketball like?
Basketball was always my first love. I just think that because I grew up in a family that played, it kind of turned into, this isn't that fun anymore. It's more like, I know that this isn't going to be, I don't want to play overseas. I don't want to play in the NBA. So what can I do that I love that I can continue doing? So I think that's where the transition happened. And I knew that I needed to make that transition in college.
So
how scary, but how was that? I mean, that has to be terrifying, right?
Yeah. Because like my whole family, I felt like they wanted me to play.
Right. So like, what was that conversation
it was like choosing me, honestly. Like it really was.
What was that conversation like when you're like, Mom, Dad, I'm done playing basketball and I'm gonna go into fashion?
It was scary as hell. No. I'm the only child too. I'm the only child. Like, I went to school to play. So that was scary. But then they were supportive. They were supportive.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bri, this is going to be a random question, but because you're a baller and a fashion stylist, I want you to can you like evaluate to us what you think about like how Russell Westbrook arrives to the NBA? Like, how would you describe his fashion sense?
I just think he is very confident in himself. He's very comfortable with himself. And he's just having fun. Like, I don't think he even thinks of it. I mean, I know he knows he's making a statement, but I just don't think he cares about what anybody else says, and I love that part of it. So I definitely love that. Yeah.
We're sticking on brand with Nick's question. Who are your top 5 fashionable basketball players right now?
I can't even necessarily just say that it will be basketball.
Or athletes. How about we just go athletes?
Or even athletes. I mean, it's just so many men out here that have their own like personal style that I just love.
You're smart. You don't want to lose any potential clients. I
see. Yeah.
I caught it. She was like, no, whoa. She said,
everybody good. Everybody
can dress.
No, like, I mean, I wouldn't even necessarily put it in that category of like basketball players.
Or in general.
So I would say like one for sure. I'd say like Michael B. Jordan, because it's very like, it's simple, but it's also like, clean. I love a clean look. Who else would I say?
She started smiling as soon as she said Michael B. Jordan. You saw that, right?
No, not just that. I just think that he hasn't really picked out.
She was like, his fashion in Creed was great when he had no shirt on.
No, but he's very into fashion too.
Yeah,
and
that's
true. He also had his own line with Coach. You know what I mean? So it's like he likes fashion, but he's also very hands-on in it. And then I'd say A$AP Rocky. Definitely very fashion forward. And that has to do with like editorial type vibes.
Interesting.
You know what I mean? And then also, even though it's not very like fashion forward, I'd say Steph Curry too, because he's very clean as well. He's not very like flamboyant.
Out there, yeah. He's like an express, what do you call it? Little mannequin.
You think he's an express? That's funny. Yeah. I would say that for as far as like someone, they're different. All 3 are very different, but I think that they all have their own like personal, unique twist on everything they do. And a lot of times I think a lot of the guys are doing their outfits more just to make like, not necessarily just a statement, but they just want some type of attention with it more so than their actual personal style, And whenever I'm styling someone, I want to make sure that they stay true to themselves because that's when it lasts. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, Bri, I'd say this is like so cool. It's so interesting because fashion style is not something that I think the average person comes across or even thinks about really. So like it's such
Yeah.
a unique and dope hustle and so much thought. And then here's how much thought goes into it, how much thought and creativity, and
Yeah.
it's like a balance of art and business. You know what I mean? So I do want to ask you, like, with your career, what would you say is like your biggest accomplishment or like thing that you're most proud of?
So it's actually like a backstory to it. So you know how I say I play basketball.
Mm-hmm.
And I just was like really trying to figure out like my niche, because at that point I had done like press, I had done actress, work with different actresses. I'd done a bunch of different like really good jobs, but the one that I felt like was the biggest was I put together this deck and I just randomly picked 3 athletic fit guys and styled them and started reaching out to different agencies and ended up connecting with a friend from middle school who was working on a project for Under Armour.
Mm.
And the job was it was like a mini series. And I ended up booking that and flying back to Baltimore
Baltimore, yeah.
to style the whole series, working with like basketball players that I had already known in gyms I played in. And it was
Wow.
just like a full circle moment.
Mhm.
So yeah,
Is that a moment where you felt like I'm exactly where I need to be?
Yeah, and then my parents got to see like this is a
Mm.
real job.
Yeah. That's important.
Yeah.
They were like, oh, our daughter didn't lose her mind, thank God.
Yeah, they were like, wow, Under Armour did this? Like, yeah. And then what's crazy after that, like a few years later, my dad, he still plays basketball to this day.
Oh, nice.
But he got a text and like
He's playing down at the Y?
he plays in different places, like they fly out like to play.
Wow,
Like,
that's crazy.
Oh,
He's
wow.
serious.
yeah, he plays. So he sent me a text from his group chat and it was a picture of him like from a TV show or whatever. And I was like, what's that? And he was like, one of my friends sent me a photo, I was on TV. And I'm like, that's the film that I did for Under Armour.
Wow.
So they captured him on the wall at his school and put it in the film.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did I put you on TV, Dad?
Yeah,
It's something that you were part of.
I said that and I screenshot and posted. I was like, Dad, you're on TV.
That's incredible. You did mention something just now about agencies, and reaching out to agencies.
Yeah.
Currently, you're a businesswoman, you own your own business. Do you find it challenging, like being like small business or individual, and there's like these large agencies out there? Like, do you find yourself like competing for business with those guys?
No, because not at all. And when I was saying agencies in that regard, it was more about knowing where my audience is. So knowing that athletes have managers and agents, and sometimes if you don't already have that personal relationship with them, you reach out to them, or like a project, or there are a bunch of different production offices that put projects together working with them, so you can reach out to them too. But as far as agencies, no, I don't necessarily think there's any competition. There's less agencies than there are people who are wanting these jobs. So once you know who your audience is, you can reach out to them directly. So it's not necessarily, when it comes to editorial, you wanted to do magazines or you wanted to do, work on different sets or things like that. Yeah, I definitely say an agency or TV, film, that's different.
Would you style people? I'm not sure if this is a thing, styling people for like social media, at all sketches. That is a thing. Okay.
That's definitely a thing. I mean, if that's what you want to do, and just making sure that they have the budget for it. So yeah, there's a ton of influencers that, I've done it before.
Yeah.
I've definitely done that before. Yeah.
Would you say
good content?
Yeah. Would you say that, you're very confident and like such like clear in like what it is that you want and your craft. Has there ever been an experience where you've been like intimidated being around like celebrity clients and like big names and you're like, I hope I don't mess this up?
No, and that's still crazy to me to this day, but I think because I grew up around them, I never looked at them any other way. Like, being an athlete, people look at athletes as celebrities all the time, and it's still crazy to see like my friends and like kids run up to them and you
Ask for
know, but
autographs.
yeah,
You're like,
I think,
you
I
don't
think
know, he's a regular
Yeah,
guy.
I'm
Like,
Like,
he's a
bro, that's
loser.
day day.
Yeah,
Bro, that's
like,
day day.
like he still owes me $1 from like 6 years ago.
yeah,
Like,
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 yeah, that blows my mind sometimes, but no, I think it's maybe because I grew up around it.
mm.
Okay.
So beyond all the business that you run and things of that nature, you also wrote a book, kind of giving like
Yeah.
kind of behind the scenes. That book called Becoming a Stylist.
Mhm.
What was that process like? Were you always a writer, or was this something you just started to do for the first time and you were like, I'm just gonna go for it?
So no, it's so crazy. I was going to this church, and still to this day they're all online now, but it's called One LA. I don't know if you've heard of that, with Torrey and Sarah Jakes Roberts.
Wow.
But she just kept talking one day about like, it's a book in you, it's a book in you. And I'm like, is it? And I will always get other stylists asking me like, well, how do you do that? Or what's the process? So I just felt like a lot of that had to do with it not being any information out there. Like when you try to Google search, there's nothing out there. Or when you even type in fashion stylist, all these retail jobs of sales floor people come up. And I'm like, that's not stylist.
That's not what
So
you're
much,
trying
so
to.
much
Yeah.
more than it. Yeah.
No, not at all. And I'm like, that's false advertisement.
That ain't it, Chief.
I got like that before. Quit like a corporate job thinking I was about to be a personal stylist for 3 months. And I was like, this is not it. So I put a book together just talking about the journey that it takes to become a stylist from my point of view. And also like the mentality you need as an entrepreneur and in anything you do. And then also at the end of it, I talk about all the different types of jobs there are as a stylist, and
Oh, that's
then
cool.
how much they charge. So what the average rate is to charge, because that's another thing. People are like, well, how do you set your rates? And how do you do this? So I did that. I wrote the book. It was a process. I mean, I made my outline, and I think it helped because I'm very organized.
Yeah. Bree, have you ever struggled with that, setting your prices? And like a lot of people struggle with like knowing their value or knowing their worth in the beginning.
It's like that imposter syndrome. It's like, yo, like, why would somebody pay me like a premium price? Like,
no, absolutely. Especially when you're first starting out, because you're doing a lot of stuff for free. And a lot of these stylists, when you're interning or assisting, they're like, I won't lie, they like kind of take advantage of you. Like they'll have you run their errands and do all these things when yes, you're getting the experience, but then they're not even sharing the information that you're interning for. So it's like, you're wasting money doing that. So
game.
I mean, a lot of that comes from just people don't want you to ever outshine them, right? Like, or because they had to go, or they experienced it. So they're like, well, you got to go through it because I went through it.
Yeah, I hate that.
Some crazy stories. I had a stylist, and this is when I was first starting out. She, does major jobs, like big jobs. And she had me go out, buy some stuff for her, changed her mind. And so she didn't want it and tried to make me return it. It was non-returnable. So she asked for her money back from me. So, I felt like she's this top stylist. If I don't do that, are people going to talk about me and not hire me?
Oh, right. Because like her voice is louder right now.
It's a challenging situation.
Yeah. So stuff like that happens all the time. So that's why, I created the book and also the online course where I teach the business side of things. So you don't have to go through that.
And so with the people that you teach, what would you say is like a common thing that you see from like people wanting to get into the game? Like what's like a common like thing people struggle with when they like first want to?
Like what's so crazy is I put out, my course, it gives you all the business aspect of things, but I have a form that I have people fill out before we even like talk about the course. And everyone just says, how do you start? Like that one simple question. I'm thinking like they want to know how to, make a contract, like
some
all
nuanced stuff.
Yeah. I'm like, I have contracts in there. I have email templates in there. I have all the stuff which they need, but they just really want to know how to start.
That's
and I'm
crazy.
Like, wow. Yeah.
How about your successful clients? Like what type of traits do you see that's common for people who end up successful?
Well, one, I help them figure out the type of stylist they want to be. So I've had people who are now able to like organize closets. That's one, that people don't even know about. Or I also, I build websites and do e-commerce and all that. So I had another one that I taught how to do a pre-sale on some items and how to find, products or clothes online. She did a pre-sale, I made like $5,000 in a month. Like So yeah, I mean, it's different things, or other stylists who are just able to find clients and book them, you know, so setting their packages, setting their rates, that's one of the biggest thing, or even just knowing how to make a portfolio. People don't know how to do that. You can make a portfolio for free. You don't have to go out and spend all this money on clothes or try to find this big photographer or anything. Like, you can legit go online and find people just like you who are trying to start out. Sorry, my dog is like trying to play. You can find people
It's
who
Friday.
like, are trying to make their portfolio too and collaborate with them. Designers, makeup artists. So yeah, it's so many different ways. Or even just take a friend to the mall and shoot them and say, this is the type of styling I do. Like, there's so many things you can do for free and not, you know, necessarily have to
pay for it.
I mean, and it's always that inner like self-doubt that's actually stopping everybody from doing anything. Look, wow, what a beautiful dog.
For some reason, I pictured
even the dog has fashion sense.
Yeah, for some reason I thought he was gonna have a sweater on or something.
Yeah. But it's funny you mentioned that. You're like, yo, there's so many things you can do like for free, and then you can just collaborate with people that want to collab with you. But everyone assumes that they're like not worthy of something, so they're like, oh, I don't even know where to start. I need someone to tell me step by step how to do it. And it's like the first step is to do it.
Yeah.
I mean,
the first step is to,
and it's going to be ugly.
Do it. Yeah, believe that you can do it and take action steps at least 1 to 2 times a day towards that goal, and it will come to life. Like, it legit will. You just have to believe it and do it.
Were there people you looked at outside of your parents that for inspiration or just motivation that kind of helped you at any point when you were maybe having a down period, or when you were dealing with that stylist you were talking about that, you know, motivated you to keep going?
Any mentors?
I didn't tell anybody about that, honestly. But I would say my grandmother, and then also one of my friends, she's an actress. She did the movie Superfly, but she would let me come on set, and I met the costume designer there, and she's always been like a mentor to me too. So I've had that. And then also my brother, who's also my business partner in BAO. He's been in the fashion industry for years, and he actually gave me my first paid styling job. And like, we've done New York Fashion Week shows together. We've done like legit these type of, you know, production type
family
stuff.
ties.
Well, see, okay, so I call him my brother, but you know,
I was gonna say, I thought you were an only child.
Yeah, no. I call him my brother, but we've been, you know, friends for like over 12 years, and we're 10 years apart. So he's always been like a big brother to me. But I would say him and my grandmother for sure. Like, I can call them and ask them, or my mentor, who's a costume designer.
You ever like sit and like pinch yourself as like, I can't believe like I'm here? You know what I mean? Like, cause you just like Fashion Week or something. I know you have to be like, yo, when I was playing ball, I never would have pictured myself. Like, what world am I in right now?
When I did my first Fashion Week show, I definitely was like, oh my God. And it's all the way down in my feed, but it's like, I screenshot the schedule for the day, and it was like lead stylist in my name. I was like, oh my God.
Crushing it.
Like, is that a typo?
I'm like, wow, I'm at the 10th. Like, I did that. I was still young when I did that, and I was still trying to learn a lot, because, you know, like I said, it's so many different types of styling jobs that there are. So yeah, I mean, but that was great. And of course, he guided me along the way, because he brought me on for that job. So that was a blessing to have. Like I always say, you know, it's hard because a lot of people feel like they don't have the support or know anybody that they can talk to about it. So that's the biggest part of, like, you know, what I do too. Like, I even have like a free Facebook group where if you just need any tips or whatever, we can just talk about it. I just started that because I was getting so many emails from people, and even though they couldn't, you know, do the program, whether they could or not, like, it's still something there where it's a community of people just like you.
Gotcha. That's dope.
So do you find that in this industry, they want to collaborate with other people in their same field, or people kind of like to keep to themselves and like view everybody as like competition?
I mean, I feel like when I was starting out, it definitely felt like that, because it seemed like, you know, they didn't want to share information, or they thought like you would take their jobs. But I just feel like everybody can win. Like, it's too many of us out here to not win. Like, there's no reason that we can't share knowledge, share information, because that's how you get better. And so I think my goal is to break that. to
Mhm.
break that mentality.
I was going to say, so you seem like a person that, sets out some goals, accomplishes them, and then looks to set some new ones. So
All the time.
what's something you look forward to in the next year or 5 years that you kind of have your mind in the back of your mind, like focused on?
Well, both BAL, which is the beauty, it's a beauty accelerator, beauty, health, and wellness accelerator for Black and Latinx beauty, brands. And so it's a 3-month program. We're starting it in the fall. And, we have mentors and advisors that are going to come on board to work with the brands under us. And then after, try to get them some type of seed funding or, corporate partnership or, something to elevate their brand. And then we also have an e-commerce site that we've launched, and we have our own skincare line as well, like our signature skincare set that I want to see do very well. I mean, we've gotten some great feedback from everything that we've done thus far. So, I mean, that's one. And then as far as my consulting, stylist, I just think it's just so many of us that's trying to figure it out. So if I can help as many people as I can, that's my goal. Like that's where I'm at.
And that's not focused on self. Like that tends to be how,
Oh yeah. No.
you know what I mean, how people succeed.
It's like when the player becomes the coach.
Yeah.
Yeah, legit.
Mark Jackson. Bree, can you tell us, like, if you had to, and I know you probably wouldn't want to leave anybody out, but if you had to give like 5 of like your favorite like celebrity clients that our guests may know of, or like 5, like just names of like cool people that you style for, what would those names be?
Or or even just work for that.
Yeah.
Or work with.
Yeah.
I don't know that they would. Okay, so I don't know Lex Scott Davis. She is an actress that's on. She was on Superfly. She was Tony Braxton. She was also on the last Netflix film that just came out, Sweet Girl. She was on Training Day CBS. She's been in a lot of different things. So that's one. We grew up together. Dante Green was in Sacramento Kings, and then I don't know if you know Duke Iheanacho. He's a football player.
Yeah.
Yeah, I worked with Duke on his clothing line and a lot of stuff with him. Who else? As far as like corporate, I mean, I've worked with Netflix, Sony, CBS, Warner Brothers.
Who's been your favorite?
Pizza Hut. My favorite. It's crazy, but I would say the Savino commercial that I did because I got to work with I think her name was Bird in the movie from Baltimore. The one that was in the movie oh man, what is that?
12 O'Clock Boys or
no, but it is with 4 brothers. I mean, not 4 brothers, the 4 best friends.
Charm City Kings?
It's an old one.
Baltimore.
But like Sanaa Lathan and all of them were in there too. And I can't remember that. Man, my mind went blank, but it's one of my favorite movies. But I got to work with her and that was super cool. So I would say Aveeno. That was one of my top ones. And of course, Under Armour. I did a lot of projects with them.
So at this point, would you consider yourself happy?
Yeah, I definitely would consider myself happy. But I just think sometimes you're so hard on yourself and you have so many goals you want to keep going. So I think that's where I am, but I'm definitely happy. Yeah.
Hustler, humble, and from what sounds like really disciplined as well. Advice for other stylists out there. If you had to give any advice, what would you tell other aspiring stylists?
One thing I would say is don't give up. Like, just don't give up, because a lot of them are like, I get a lot of people saying, well, I just, I ended up just doing my 9 to 5 and I'm miserable here. Like they say that, like, I am miserable here and I just want to do something that I love. So just don't give up and just know that you can ask for help. Don't be scared to ask for help, because a lot of people are scared to ask for help in the fashion industry because they think they're going to get ignored. And a lot of times you do, but just don't stop.
Yeah, that makes sense. It just sounds like a fast-paced, challenging, demanding, to where like you have to be sharp. You have to be...
No, I wouldn't necessarily say that. I think once you know the right strategy to use, because that's the thing. If you don't know the right, I read a lot of books, but if you don't know the right strategy, one, and then the tactics to use in order to get that done, then you just don't know what to do. So
Right.
once you know that, it's really
It's like-
not, especially if you enjoy what you're doing. And at the end of the day, you enjoy, making other people happy as far as fashion and styling. It's fun. It's honestly a fun job.
Yeah. I might just be putting myself in the shoes because I have no type of, I have no, I could not do that. It's cool.
No, it is legit. It's fun. It's
Yeah,
I mean, you literally are just shopping. Like if you love online shopping, you love going to stores and you love putting outfits together, and yeah, I enjoy that.
So Brie, one thing we always like to ask our guests is, what is your hustle mantra? And your hustle mantra can be like a phrase or a quote or something that you kind of like run your business or live your life by. So if you had to give a hustle mantra, what would it be?
Well, I think it's 3 or 4 things. The first thing I would say is, if you have any type of dream or desire, that it's put in you for a reason, and always trust your intuition and take action steps towards that. Because when you do, you're actually opening yourself up to all the possibilities of what you've already, had inside of you. So just trust your intuition and act on that intuition. And you always know when it's something that doesn't feel right.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And then I think whenever we try to go against that, it does not end up well. So I would just say that trust your intuition and act on it.
Wow, that's some gems for everyone to take home. I mean, Nick and I can definitely take some of that. Trusting our intuition.
Apply that this weekend.
What you talking about?
Hey, Bree, that's gonna be for like a behind the scenes bonus content. I don't know what you're talking about.
That's funny.
It's a family oriented show here. Bree, you've been an incredible guest.
Thank you so much for having me.
No, absolutely. Real quick before we wrap up, can you just quickly shout out like where people can find you, like your social media handles and things like that?
Yeah, so you can contact me on social media at Bree Wise Style. That's BRIWISESTYLE. And then for the beauty accelerator and e-commerce, you can visit bao.community or bao.universe.
Awesome. And for everyone listening, we will obviously post all of her information on our blog, where you can find all that pertinent information. But that's a wrap for this week's episode. Thanks for listening to the 99 Hustle podcast. Please be sure to visit 99hustle.com to join the conversation, access the show notes, and discover our amazing bonus content. Please rate, review, and subscribe if you enjoyed this episode. Always remember, there are 99 hustles. All you got to do is choose one.
99 hustles.